Okay, we have a baseball field that is square shaped and the bases are 80 feet apart. We'll go ahead and start by drawing the picture. I obviously have the convenience of picking whatever picture I want, and I'm sorry, but you don't. So I'm going to make a perfect square, and then we're going to turn it sideways. Get this thing lined up right. You know how I feel about this thing. There we go. Pretty good sized picture, so we can draw one. Okay. Well, there we go. Now we're ready to go. You're running from second base to third base. Here's second base, here's first, here's third, there's home, and we're running second base to third base. I'm not a very good artist here, and obviously that arm is longer than the other one. Well, it looks that way. No, it really is. Okay, and we're running at a rate of 24 feet per second. At what rate is the distance from home plate changing at the point where we are 30 feet from third base? So we are really going to be dealing with this triangle right here. And the reason I know that is because it said distance from home plate, or distance to home plate, direct distance to home plate. So we have a right triangle going on. You guessed it, this is going to involve trig. I know I'm not, I just accidentally lied. It's going to be the Pythagorean theorem. It's not going to be trig. It would be trig if we had some of the angle measurements and we were going to use those in this. The only angle measurement we have is the fact that this is a right angle. Okay, you're running from second base to third base at a rate of 24 feet per second. Let's go ahead and label some stuff. We'll call some things A's, B's, and C's. I'll call that B. I'll call this A. I'll call this C. And we're going to need some rates as well with respect to time. So dB dt, dC dt, and dA dt. Okay, let's start filling some stuff in. The bases are 80 feet apart. Based on that and the fact that we know a little bit about baseball, no one's moving the bases around, the rate of change between the bases is 0. For the sake of space, I'm going to leave my units out. You're running from second to third at a rate of 24 feet per second. Because it says rate and the word per, P-E-R, in there, then we know it is obviously a rate, and it's going to be one of the derivatives, the DDTs. So that is going to be 24. And just to be on the safe side, let's make it negative because the distance is getting smaller. That looks like 29. I'm sorry, but it's 24. There we go. We are 30 feet from third base. So we know that's 30 feet. Now there are a couple things we don't know. And the main thing we don't know is the rate at which our distance to home plate is changing. So that's what they're asking for. And since it's asking for something that deals with rate, that's the calculus question. But first we've got to do the algebra question. We've been through this particular type of problem many times, so let's do it. Pythagorean theorem, not going to bore you to death with this. We know A, we know B, and we're just about to find C. Use 2 decimal places, comes in handy. 85, 44. 85.44 feet. So now we know C. That's going to help. 85.44. All right. Now it's time for some calculus. That thing is not aligned. Imagine that. No matter how hard I try. Frustrating, isn't it? Okay. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. We're going to show something that sort of happens in our head. It's one of those notational things. We're going to take the derivative of this with respect to t. In the process of doing that, we are going to have the derivative of A, which is 2A. dA dt, 2B. I won't say it, because Hamlet already did. Oops, I should say dB dt. I'm sorry. And then C squared, and it becomes 2C dC dt. Said it many times, but I will say it one more again. We need to divide by 2. We don't have to, but it's just going to simplify things that much more. Dividing by 2 is just going to wipe out those 2's. I'm going to do that in my head. So let's go ahead and start plugging some stuff in. We know A. We know dA dt. We know B. Oops, wrong number. It's okay, I'll squeeze that 8 in there. And we know dB dt. And we know C. But we don't know dC dt, but we'll get over it because we're about to find it using some basic algebra at this point. State the obvious here, he's dead. Divided by 85.44, there we go. I found it. I'm tempted not to tell you, make you find it yourself. Oh, well, just need to make sure you're right. You know how to use a calculator there. Negative 8.43, let's put the units on there just so we can be sure. We're traveling in feet per second, because those are the units that were in the problem, feet per second. And the distance is negative because the distance to home plate is decreasing. As we're running this way, this distance is going to be getting shorter.